Okay, so back to the corona thing, and I don't want to beat this to death, but I do feel very passionate about this, and I have done a ton of research, and I don't claim to be smarter than anybody else, but I just think that I've focused more of my attention on this, and and I've done probably more research than most people have. I was paying very close attention to the numbers here in New York, during the shutdowns, and especially when fucking our genius governor Andrew Cuomo decided to put us into another lockdown, which put hundreds of businesses permanently out of business. I felt very strongly, based on the data at that point in time, that was a negative EV decision on his part, because again, the numbers did not justify us needing another lockdown. So during the peak of the worst part of Corona, we had about 900 deaths a day here in New York City. When he put us into the second lockdown, we were down to about 10 to 15 deaths a day, and the total hospitalizations were 20% of what they were at the peak. At the peak, we had about 10,000 hospitalizations. At the time when they put us into the second lockdown, we had about 2,000 hospitalizations. Now they say, they make the argument, oh, but we don't want the hospitals to be overrun. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit, because the hospitals were never overrun. There was a few hospitals in Queens and in like the epicenter of where the virus hit the hardest here in the city, where they were getting close to capacity and they maybe had to send people to other hospitals, but we were never at a point where we were out of hospital beds for the ER. And going back to just my general mindset on this, what I've been saying is that the coronavirus, it's very real. It is dangerous to a certain degree, although, I really don't think a 1 in 2,000 death rate is dangerous in the grand scheme of things for a strong, healthy person. But basically, Corona is very real. It is dangerous, but it's being used to manipulate and control people. And I just don't really see how anyone can basically disprove that statement. And I could go on and on about this, but it's the policies regarding Corona vary, from state to state, from country to country. My buddy lives in Spain. He was on like a 6 p.m. curfew until like a month ago, and legally had to wear a mask outside. Now, the CDC comes out and Fauci comes out and admits that there's a minuscule risk of transmission from the virus outdoors, and you don't need to wear a mask if you've been vaccinated, which again, in my mind, is really bullshit, because this is just a way for them to put more pressure on the people who have chosen not to get the vaccine to get the vaccine, because now you're going to be kind of a black sheep of society, forced to wear a mask in a lot of situations if you don't have the vaccine. So it's just a way to create a second-class citizen and try to manipulate people into getting the vaccine. Anybody who's young and healthy, who does not have a pre-existing condition, has no need for the vaccine. And honestly, I don't want to get too much into the vaccine, because my sister works for the vaccine company and she's actually asked me not to speak about it, but it's kind of difficult for me not to. And since this is a private conversation between you and me, the vaccine does not have official FDA approval. We have no idea what the long-term side effects are. And the trials are ongoing currently. So if you're taking the vaccine, you're agreeing to be part of the trials. I do not think that at least 90% of Americans are aware of like the 3 key points that I just made regarding the vaccine. And so that's an example of, people being manipulated because they're not aware of some of the key information here. And a lot of this key information is not being reported by the media. They're just saying, oh, how can we convince everybody to get the vaccine? You got to tell your friends and family they need the vaccine. This is bullshit, bro. You got to see the deception here. It's fucking insane. And you know what? I love you to death. And, I have a huge amount of respect for you. And again, this is not personal, but I will not stop talking about this stuff until I see people realizing what I believe to be the truth. And I know this is only my opinion, but I think that you don't